Member of Parliament Pablo Rodriguez has resigned from the Liberal cabinet and now will sit in the Parliament as an independent. He has also announced his intention to run for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. For more on all of this, we have reached Alex Boissonneau. He is the host of Première Heure on CBC's Radio Canada's morning show on Radio Canada's morning show in Quebec City. Forgive me for that, Alex. Very good to have you on the show.
Natasha, that's okay, thanks. Première Heure, the morning show in Quebec City.
I'm trying. The French is no merci beaucoup. It's pretty poor. I'm sorry about that. But that's why you're here. Help us understand what Pablo Rodriguez is getting himself into. Because the Quebecs, as you know, you've covered it, we're covering it. The Liberals are taking a really big beating federally on multiple fronts. And now he's leaving that ship and he's getting into provincial Liberal politics. What's the lay of the land there with the Liberal Party in Quebec?
That's a big step. Let's say that he stands a good chance. I think we can say that for numerous reasons. He's well known. He's been lieutenant for the federal Liberal government for years. He speaks perfect French. He comes from University of Toronto. So he's well known here. As soon as he's going to move, there's going to be cameras to talk with him. He's going to have some good communication. He has a communication advantage, let's say. Second, you have the proof in the fact that he has a good chance with the reaction of the other contenders. You've seen that, Natasha, right off the bat. When we heard this week that he would make it official today, that he's going to be one of the contenders to become the leader of the Quebec Liberal Party, the reactions were, I would not say aggressive, but they were negative and they were quick to come, saying that he would have to defend the legacy of his government, saying that he's coming from the federal Liberal Party, which can be a problem. We're going to talk more later about that. So just that is a proof that his entrance is not unnoticed, and in politics, that's very important.
Where is he in terms of the competition? Because we know that Denis Coderre has thrown his name in. That's a big name in Quebec politics. Is it a complete understanding that Pablo Rodriguez will get it, or does he face some real competition?
He has some real challenges, Natasha, because of numerous reasons. First, he's going to have to defend the legacy of his government, which in Quebec is, I would not say as unpopular than other parts of Canada, but is facing a strong win right now. He's going to have to defend decisions that were not popular as well of his governments in Quebec. If we talk about environment, if we talk about immigration, if we talk about the spendings as well, some people in the Liberal Party saying that what has been happening with the Canadian Liberal Party in spending more, having a debt that has grown considerably. We don't want to see that in Quebec. That was very important with the last Liberal government in Quebec. So there's going to be some criticism there. Another challenge, Natasha, is the fact that he's coming from the Canadian Liberal Party. You know, since Premier Jean Lesage in Quebec, it was very important for a significant number of Quebec militants in the Liberal Party to have a pronounced autonomy, complete independence from the federal party. So there's already some people saying that Pablo Rodriguez is going to make of the Quebec Liberal Party some kind of a franchise of the federal Liberal Party, which can draw criticism. And last thing I would say is, will he be able to present himself as the candidate of renewal for the Quebec Liberal Party, since he has a long experience, which can be an advantage, but which can be as well criticized and saying he's going to bring old politics to Quebec. We need something new. Those are going to be challenges for him.
Let's talk about the fact that during his press conference, he actually mentioned the Parti Québécois and this issue of a referendum coming up. And now we just heard from the Bloc leader earlier in the week. We're putting up on our screen how the standings are in the Quebec legislature. The Liberals only have 19 seats compared to the coalition Avenir Québec. But then the Parti Québécois only has 4. But this issue of a referendum coming up again is something that we have seen in Quebec again and again and again. And some of us were under the impression this is a non-issue. Set the record straight for us.
Well, the party in Quebec that represents the idea of independence is the Parti Québécois, and is doing good right now in the polls. But we are 2 years from the election, so a lot of things can change. However, the idea that independence can come back will certainly mobilize the militants of the Liberal Party, which can be an advantage for the party. The party has, Natasha, a big challenge, though, ahead. So if Pablo Rodriguez would become the leader of the party, he would still have to do something very hard right now for the party, is to say, go out of Montreal, go out of the area, the metropolis here in Quebec, and reconnect with the Francophone majority, which is a big challenge. He's going to have as well to sit in two parliaments. And there is someone who tried to do that, Martine Ouellette, remember, who was an MPP in the National Assembly and became the leader of the Bloc Québécois as well. And she was criticized quite often because of that, saying that she was representing the federal government in Quebec or vice versa, for her representing Quebec in the federal parliament. You know, in Quebec, there is always a strong desire for a lot of people to mark a difference between Quebec and the federal politics. Be the person sovereignist or not, this is not a question. Quite often, even for the Liberal Party, the idea was important to say always that the interest of Quebec comes first, even if it's inside of Canada, but to mark that difference between what's happening in Quebec and in Canada. So being in the two parliaments like this could be a challenge as well.
Let's talk about him as an individual and his history in Quebec. You know, we were taking the press conference where he made the announcement publicly, and parts of it were very touching, Alex, where he talked about coming, his family as refugees from Argentina fleeing. You know, so many Argentinians ended up finding their way to Canada. And his is a story so many people can relate to, that sense of freedom and that sense of deep-rooted commitment to Canadian values. But he was specifically saying to Quebec values and how his friends would come over and invite him to come over and skate. How much of that is going to resonate within the Liberals to vote him in and within the greater Quebec community?
I think it's going to resonate very well in the Liberal Party. Aside from all the question that is coming from the Canadian Liberal Party, he has a story that is very touching. He's well known in Quebec and he's respected as well. He speaks perfect French. He studied in Sherbrooke, so he has a link outside of Montreal because, as I said, that's a challenge. However, he did do his career in Ottawa. It's not unknown now of having a politician that does well in Ottawa that comes to Quebec and has a bright future as well. Jean Charest has been the longest serving premier in Quebec, and he was the leader of the Conservative Party in the 90s. So it's something that can work. The fact is that as well, he has a lot of people that's going to be with him inside of the Liberal Party because maybe he can bring some fresh air to the party as well, bring a new perspective in a party that needs it. But it's very a challenge, Natasha, to be the bridge in between the preoccupation of Montreal and the preoccupation of the rest of Quebec, of the French majority. And that's going to be some work he's going to have to do, Pablo Rodriguez, to dissociate himself a little bit, to connect with the rest of Quebec, with his legacy as a representative of Montreal in Ottawa as well, because he's very associated for a lot of Quebecers as well with federal politics and with federal politics with a perspective from Montreal. So this is something that is going to have to be able to reconcile, and it's not a given right now.
Okay, we've got a lot to watch between now and that leadership race. Alex Bossino, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you will join us again as that conversation continues.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Ciao.